If you have ongoing exposure to controlling people, it's a virtual certainty that you're going to experience blurry boundaries, which is why I've created the extensive online course called This Is Me, Establishing Boundaries with the Controllers in Your Life. There's a link below that will give you all of the details, and I hope that you would find it therapeutic. There are many key elements that make up the pattern of narcissism. They have a real strong need for control. They're manipulative. They want to be superior. They make up facts as they go along, which we call alternate reality. They're very insensitive, entitled, etc. But one of the primary elements also that goes into the making of narcissism is they are defined by pain avoidance. Now, none of us really enjoys feeling pain, so I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but when I talk about this as it relates to narcissism, what I mean is their life is actually an epic struggle to avoid pain. I want you to just think that one through very carefully. A narcissist's life is an epic struggle to avoid pain. Much of this is done on a subconscious level, but the easiest way to see how narcissists are pathologically inclined in that direction is watch how strongly defensive they are. Because it's in the pervasiveness of their defensiveness that you see how much they just absolutely have to run away from pain. Now, first and foremost, I'm going to acknowledge pain exists. And it's not something that we can completely run away from. Now, we don't want to enhance it by any stretch, but the bottom line is this is a broken, imperfect world, and healthy individuals can acknowledge that and maneuver through it in clean and constructive ways. But instead, whenever a narcissist feels that there's a potential for pain, then they go in very different kind of directions in a non-healthy kind of way. They fear the pain of rejection. They fear the pain of being left out. They fear the pain that comes along with looking foolish or inadequate. They certainly fear the pain that might show up if they become vulnerable. They fear the pain that might accompany feeling less than or feeling exposed. And so what they do is they develop all sorts of strategies to get out of their pain and just make it go away. And again, they won't go into that healthy space of saying, let's talk about it, let's confront it and come up with a healthy strategy. But instead, they go into the defensive cover-up like they'll just shut down on you and won't go into their personal space with you at all. That's part of their defensiveness. They go into the defensiveness of projection. They see in you what they don't want to have to see within themselves. They can become very evasive. They use a lot of denial. Perhaps one of the ways that they avoid pain is they try to find the beautiful people or the powerful people, and they sidle up next to them, thinking, well, if I'm associated with those folks over there, then that means that I don't have to face the pain, that I might just be a regular Joe or Jane over here. They can go into addictions. That can be part of their pain avoidance. They will show zero vulnerability. There's all sorts of ways that they try to deal with their pain. But all of that said, the favorite tactic that narcissists have as they try to avoid pain is this, and that is they inflict pain upon you. Now, think that one through very carefully. All of us have a certain amount of pain, and each one of us needs to come to terms with all that entails. But the narcissist thinks, well, okay, here's what I'm going to do. If I can become the one who doles out pain, if I can be the one that makes you feel uncomfortable, and if I can make you squirm and somehow or another make you responsible for whatever it is going on inside of me, I win. I avoid pain. And so they try to avoid pain by inflicting pain upon you. It's kind of like, well, if I wind up being the superior one here, then somehow or another that makes it all better. Your hurt makes me hurt less. That's their strategy. And it's very twisted, and you only take a look at it in a cursory kind of way. It's like, this doesn't make any sense at all. But I just want you to take a look at how this can work out. When they go into their anger mode, for example, what they're trying to do is they're trying to, the anger is there because they feel like, hey, something's not going well at all, and I feel like I might be rejected. But it's like, what if I minimize who you are? And what if I minimize the strength of your message? My pain goes away. Or the same thing if they go into blame and accusation. Well, in their way of thinking, it's like, well, if I can focus on how your dysfunction is causing me difficulty, then I don't have to look inside myself. And so they go into the victim mode very easily. Well, the reason I'm feeling pain is because all you terrible people out there, they can sabotage who you are. And in doing so, it's like, well, if I can make you look inept or irresponsible, then my pain is less. I win. Or they can stonewall. It's like, well, if I can just pretend that you're not there or you're so irrelevant, then that means that somehow or another I make you a nobody. That means I'm a somebody. And again, it's very twisted logic. Or they can smear your name. Their thinking there is, well, if I can falsely elevate myself by minimizing you and making you look bad, then somehow or another the pain that I experience with all the rejection and looking foolish, all of that's going to go away. Doesn't make sense. How about, though, if we were to take a different kind of strategy and say, we're all in this together? Sure enough, there can be some hurts and some strains and some disappointments and difficulties. And sometimes it's of a very severe nature. But what if we were to say, instead of taking the pain that we have and then saying, well, if I can inflict more pain on someone else, which is the strategy of the odd strategy of the narcissist, what if we were to say, why don't we show empathy with one another? Let's create a team here where we can be with each other in our strain and difficulty. And in doing so, we can find strength together. We can find a sense of community and connectedness. And rather than us perpetuating our pain and suffering from one another, maybe we can help minimize some of the hurt by sharing bonds of goodness. And the narcissist says, nah, I'm not doing that. That means I have to have empathy. That means I have to get off of my lofty place and become just like everybody else. That means I have to let go of any angle of superiority. No, I'm not going to do that. And that's where they are. But it doesn't have to be where you are. Narcissists simply can't use that healthy pain management strategy because their sense of entitlement inhibits them from being the empathetic person that this strategy that I just mentioned requires. But having said that, I'm hoping that you can develop a thought that says, well, wait a minute, despite that narcissist ineffective and odd and strange way of dealing with pain, I'm not going to be an inflictor of pain. I've got several thoughts that I'm going to go with. First, I'm hoping you can say, why don't we just admit the fact that life can sometimes be painful? And it's not a pleasant thought, but it's true. Let's be honest about what life has. You've heard me say before that I believe that there's a duality that we have in this life. We have the side of us that's capable of love and goodness and well-being, but then there's also a side of every single person that's capable of the negatives and scorn and harshness and meanness. We have that battle raging on the inside of each one of us, and sometimes there are people in our presence who don't manage that well. Let's be honest about what's going on in this world. It's a broken, imperfect world, but it's not a place where it's beyond repair. But as we acknowledge the truth of what we are, then that helps us move forward. That also means that we just drop our sense of idealism rather than thinking, well, I've got to make all pain go away. No, sometimes I may have to absorb some of it, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to just lay down and let it run all over me. The fact is, you and I are victims of rejection and loneliness and feeling misunderstood. But we don't have to take the label of victim and wear it like a badge of distinction, which is what narcissists do. They're the constant victims. But instead of taking the victim label and wearing it, you can think, I'm still a capable person, and I'm still somebody that has coping skills, and I'm still someone who knows how to find things that are right and good. I embrace that part of who I am. And so that being the case, we can seek those who are of like mind and who want to be supportive, and we can put our arms of encouragement around each other, which is the exact opposite strategy of inflicting pain. It's like, no, we want to reduce pain by increasing kindness and goodness and helpfulness and serving each other in love. Now, certainly this does not at all preclude having boundaries. In fact, part of pain reduction is having good boundaries, which means you have a well-conceived belief about what your principles and standards and values are, and you live inside that. And when somebody tries to invite you outside of your boundaries, you won't go there, but you'll set up stipulations and consequences. And certainly that's something that you can be committed to. But hopefully you can see that there's a much different way of dealing with the hurts and frustrations and agitations that life brings than just all of this defensive stuff that the narcissist gets into, and especially their strange and odd strategy of saying, if I feel pain, if I can make you feel even more pain, then that somehow or another that solves my problem. That's nuts. That's no way of doing life. The narcissist makes the fatal error of perpetuating their pain by creating more of it in you. Makes no sense. But I'm hoping you can identify that at the very base of yourself, even despite the fact that you have hurts and disappointments, you also have a strength, and you have a goodness, and you have a decency, and you have a worth and a value that you can draw upon. And as you engage with people, hopefully you can be somebody that enhances that in others. And in doing so, you enhance those healthy ingredients within yourself. And when that happens, life becomes a little less painful. That's a much more mature strategy for dealing with that. I'm hoping that videos such as this can give you some good insight into what you're dealing with, and you realize that there's such a twisted logic inside of narcissists. And so part of what we're doing here on the channel is to help you sift out what's going on in front of you so that you can have objectivity. If you haven't subscribed yet, I would encourage you to do so. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell that goes with it. Many times when you deal with subjects like this, it can prompt the thought that says, I could use some therapy to help me sift this out. And if that's the case, we have a sponsor who would take you to a link that offers online counseling and therapy, and that's something that we embrace. I've been referring people to other therapists my entire adult life, and I'm so thrilled that I have a sponsor that can help you in that regard. So if the need is there, go below and we have a link that'll assist you in that respect. In addition, I have video courses. This is me about setting boundaries, free to be about finding yourself despite the controllers. Lots of videos and teaching points and reflection questions. It's a full-blown course, and I would encourage you to look into those as well as my books and other resources below. Nobody wants to have any more pain than we need to, so I don't fault somebody for saying I'd like to move away from it. What we don't want to do is move away from pain by throwing it all on somebody else, because that makes no sense either. We are interconnected, and we are in this together, and I hope that in doing so, or in understanding that, we can live in such a way where we're a positive presence in someone else's life, because I'm hoping that as you live among those that are in your presence, you can be someone who wants to be a giver of peace so that you're able to live inside of peace.